Hi guys, this is Zach from Watches on You, and today I'm going to be looking at the Omega Diver 300 Coaxial Master Chronometer Chronograph 44mm. So now that is a mouthful, but that is the official name for this watch. However, this is actually the Regatta America's Cup limited edition version of that chronograph. So because of that, it brings in a few new features that are quite interesting. So going right into it, you can see that the dial is a little different. You can see that the dial specifically on the right-hand subdial at 3 o'clock, you can see a red ring around the dial and then some extra text as well as an extra window. So this red ring is set up so that you can have a 10-minute countdown to start. So where you see the start arrow there, that's where essentially the race would start, and you would start the chronograph 10 minutes before the race start, so you have a countdown time and you know exactly when the race is going to begin. Now that window at the bottom of that subdial, that's actually the hours for the chronograph. So instead of having an hour hand in that subdial like they have on the standard model, they got rid of it and instead have a rotating disc underneath that subdial that will display the hours as they go by. And the justification for this change is so that you have higher level of visibility of the minutes of that subdial. So in a regatta, you'll just want to be able to make sure you're looking at the minute hand and not the hour, obviously. So it just makes the visibility that much easier. So now the other change that you can notice is the pushers. So you can see you have red and blue pushers, and those are actually rubberized on this instead of being the glossy ceramic that's the standard on Omega chronographs. And the reason they did that is because when your hands are wet, the rubber will give you more purchase and grip than a glossy ceramic button. Now, the other change that is on this is the Chrono Lock. So you can see on the side here, it says Chrono Lock, and you have this large slider, which this slides down and then back up. And it actually has quite a nice feeling to it, I will say. But so the function of this is it locks the chronograph pushers so that they cannot function when this is down. So no matter how hard you push, these aren't going to be able to push in and do any changes to the chronograph operation. So the reason they put this in is so that if you're in a regatta and you are counting down, just to make sure you don't accidentally bump or your wrist doesn't accidentally put pressure on a chronograph pusher and then stop the chronograph at the wrong time. So if I have this running and then I accidentally were to push it, it would stop it, obviously throwing off your countdown. So to give you extra security, you just start the chronograph and then you would slide this lock down and you would not be able to operate. So I'm pushing on this pusher right now, and I cannot stop that second hand. It will keep going no matter what I do until I unlock it. Then I have the ability to stop it and then reset. So I think this is a very interesting feature that I haven't seen on other watches. I know a lot of at least dive chronographs get around this by having screw down pushers where the pushers can't operate if they're screwed down. So I think it's a little interesting of way for Omega to get around that. I do definitely prefer this to screw down pushers, since screw down pushers can be a bit cumbersome to unscrew. So I do like the addition of this. However, personally, I don't know exactly when I would really use the slider, but I do think it is a very cool feature that you have a slider that can interact with the chronograph pushers. I always find it cool when manufacturers find interesting new ways that the user can interact with the movement and function of a timepiece. So going into this movement, it is a Omega Master Coaxial Chronograph movement. You can see it through the exhibition case back. It has a 60-hour power reserve, and it is a column wheel chronograph movement, which offers very nice functionality and a feeling with regard to the chronograph. The pushers feel excellent, as Omegas always do. It's vastly improved from some of the older Omega models that didn't have a column wheel, and the Master Coaxial movements are just absolutely fantastic. They have super high magnetic resistance, so you'll never have to worry about magnetizing your watch, and I really do like what Omega is doing with their movements. So now just kind of going into the generalized, I guess, features of this model that you can find on any of the Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter chronographs. Sorry, I know that name is a big mouthful. So you get a ceramic dial as well as bezel. So it's a glossy ceramic dial with the wave motif that you can see. And then you also, again, as I said, you have the ceramic bezel insert. You have a 120 click rotating bezel. The bezel, again, on Omega Seamasters is very clicky rather than smooth, which some people prefer. I personally kind of like smooth ones, but it definitely has no wiggle at all. It locks down very nicely, and it does feel quite nice as well. So you also have the manual helium escape valve. So if you're doing saturation diving, you can unscrew that and have the functionality of a helium escape valve. I know that's a very small subset of people. However, I do like the inclusion of the feature, as whether you're using it or not, I think it's a very interesting feature, and I think that the story behind it is very cool. So now I will do a wrist shot. So this is a very large watch, I will say. The diameter of 44 millimeters isn't especially large for a diver chronograph, as you have to, generally they tend to be large watches, and I have about a 7.5-inch wrist, and I do prefer watches around 40 millimeters, but I could wear this. I don't think that the diameter is too much of an issue at all, being that it is a diver chronograph. The size does help with legibility, so it does have a good purpose. The only thing is it is very thick. So thickness is a very important thing for you, you should definitely try this on in person because it is very thick. If you're not going to be really wearing cuffed shirts and thickness isn't too much of a problem, if you have a larger sized wrist, then this should be just fine for you. The bracelet is very comfortable, so that's not an issue at all. But if you have a smaller size wrist, I would highly suggest you wear this in person just to make sure that it is the right size for you. And again, I have about a 7.5-inch wrist, so you can take that for reference. Now, the final feature of this is a new a new quick release system for the bracelet, which I really like. I love quick release systems on watches, and especially ones that don't require that you use proprietary straps. A lot of manufacturers will add quick release systems, which is great because it allows you to change out the strap. However, it won't interface with standard spring bars if you want to put in an aftermarket non-proprietary strap. However, on Omegas, you can. So to undo it, you just see that dark gray button right there. You just press that metal button in, and you can then pull the bracelet out, but just like that. And the way this works is it works exactly like spring bars. So you have your two bars there, and when you push the button in, those bars just retract. So you can see it's retracting in and out there. And that means you have standard spring bar holes in the watch as well. And that's excellent, so that if you want to put on, say, a NATO strap or just any aftermarket strap that you want, you still can. Or you can also interface with Omega's quick release. They have quick release rubber bands as well that are available for this. So it just gives you a lot of options, and if you do have the Omega straps, it lets you change those out much easier than having to use a tool to take spring bars out. So this watch, now going into price, comes in a price of $10,800, which is quite high and more than the standard model. However, with the added kind of interest of the Chrono Lock and the features, I can understand why they increased the price. I would say it is quite high, just comparing it to other models. For example, from brands like Breitling, you can get Breitling Chronomats and other models which offer similar quality for less money. But if the America's Cup is something that you find very interesting and you're very interested in, I think this watch would be definitely of interest to you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about this watch. Do you like it? I'd say it's one of the better Omega limited editions that I've seen for sure, because it does add a decent amount of extra functionality. But yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I would like to thank Continental Diamond in St. Louis Park for lending us this watch for the purpose of this review. Please come and check them out if you're interested in this or any other Omega watch. They have a great selection. So thank you guys for watching again. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.